Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
The moment Kevin walked through the door, Laura eventually let out the breath she would been holding. Kevin demanded a shower and some relaxation, but before he left, she asked whether the Dublin position was still available. Laura ran down how Sidwell hovered Ace and Charlotte outside of Bobby's, and Kevin was speechless at the complete lack of slyness. Laura demanded Kevin take Ace and leave City, but she'd not be coming with them. Laura declined to leave Sonny to fend for himself against Sidwell. She was the person who dragged Sonny into her mess, so she did not suppose it was fair. Beyond Laura's fidelity to Sonny, she had Lulu and the rest of her family to suppose about as well. After hearing her out, Kevin promised to stay as well. He absolutely refused to leave Laura behind to deal with a dangerous trouble like Sidwell. Laura understood that Kevin was spooked of Sidwell, but she had to admit the peril that he posed to their entire family. She asked him to take Ace as far out of Port Charles as he could, so they would be out of Sidwell's line of fire. He knew it was stylish for Ace's safety. Portia arrived at the sanitarium and was shocked to find Britt speaking to her about her appointment. She originally mentioned that Britt was no longer a croaker. But to her surprise, Britt's medical license had been reinstated. Shortly later, Curtis arrived at the sanitarium and claimed he was there for Portia's appointment. Curtis was inversely surprised to see Britt, and he openly expressed reservations about Britt being Portia's OB. Britt tried to marshal Portia into a test room, but Curtis stopped her. Portia assured him that despite her excrescencies as a person, Britt was a astral croaker. Still, Curtis's biggest concern was whether or not a maternity test could be performed at this stage. Portia was not willing to take a maternity test yet. She was hysterical that testing the father of the baby would put stress on her and the baby, so she requested they table it for now. Portia asked Curtis for further time to sit with the gestation before they openly revealed who sired the child. Britt verified that everything was on track with Portia's gestation and encouraged her to continue taking her antenatal vitamins. Elizabeth entered the room before Portia left to check on her friend. Portia revealed that Curtis applied a lot of pressure for her to take a maternity test, but she was not ready. Outside the test room, Curtis tried to record a maternity test with Britt, but Isaiah eavesdropped and told him that it was not going to be. Britt shut down both men and verified that Portia and only Portia could make the choice to take a maternity test. After Britt departed, Isaiah stood up for Portia and told Curtis that she would have sought comfort with him if Curtis had treated her better in their marriage. Curtis pledged that his child would have a part in whatever Isaiah and Portia did with their future. Carly and Jack met up at Bobby's, and he apologized for missing New Year's Eve with her. Carly remarked that she hoped Jack would find Valentine and lock him down. Still, he'd begun to suspect that Valentine was not anywhere near Port Charles. However, it was likely that he was not there, if he had not made contact with Charlotte. Jack was upset someone was intimately working with Valentine, and Carly played it off like it was not presumptive. Emma intruded them and prayed Jack to help her get in touch with Anna. This did not feel like a normal holiday. Commodity had surely gone crazy. Jack looked deeply concerned after hearing that Emma had no way directly spoken to Anna herself. Blocked figures and no voice calls were a major red flag. Jack was willing to help track Anna down, and he asked Emma to shoot him the print of Anna she would transfer it on Christmas. She did not want to waste his time, but she appreciated Jack's fidelity to locating her missing grandmother. Carly asked Jack if Valentine had reached out to Anna as an supporter, and that is why he went missing after his escape. Jack was not induced that Anna would risk her entire life to prop Valentine in his escape. After hearing that, Carly made a quick escape from Bobby's, leaving Jack alone to make some calls about Anna. Britt tried to head up to her apartment without being spotted, but Jack ordered her to take a seat and join him. She thanked him for getting her license reinstated, and now it was her turn to steal the information from Sidwell's lab. Jack reminded her that she was clever and would figure it out. Danny was surprised to see Charlotte at the Quartermain Forces, and he asked her to come clean about why she was really there. Charlotte confessed that she planned to sneak down to see her father. Charlotte told Danny that Valentine was hiding out at Carly's house, which left Danny complexed since they were not musketeers. Danny promised that the police wouldn't know she left the property, and he was happy to help her reconnect with her father. Charlotte explained that Carly eased the original reunion, so she planned to use Tracy's steed to make it be. Danny told her that it will not be a good idea and offered to take her on his bike rather. In Carly's garret, Valentine flashed back to the memory of Carly surprising him with a visit from Charlotte on Christmas. Valentine heard someone approaching, so he entered his usual caching place and asked why she was visiting for an alternate time. Valentine assumed that Carly did not arrange the alternate visit, and he scolded her for taking a massive adventure. He told her she could no way do that again, despite how much he missed her and how enraptured he was to see her. Valentine told Charlotte that his thing was for them to be together, but he could not do that if he was restrained by the police. He demanded his son to be patient and stay down for now. Valentine asked her for trust before they could be together. Charlotte told her father about Sidwell's pitfalls, and he prompted her to stay down from him. Sidwell was dangerous, and he is not someone that she should ever cross paths with again. Time was over, and Valentine forced Charlotte to promise that she wouldn't return. Carly returned home to find Valentine packing his effects, and she asked where he was going. Valentine told her that it was time to leave. Christina summoned Jacinda outside of Bobby's and advised her to skip city to avoid taking the stage at Willow's trial. Jacinda asked if Michael was apprehensive of this, but he wasn't. Christina knew she was breaking the law by giving Jacinda a heads up, but she demanded her to leave city as snappily as possible. Christina handed Jacinda a bag of cash and demanded that she leave Port Charles before it was too late. At the courthouse, Michael was taken suddenly to see Jocelyn, but she told him she was there to support him during his evidence. Drew blustered to Willow and Alexis about how Alexis nearly collapsed Willow's chances at freedom. He reminded her that her capability to see Scout remained on the line, contingent on the trial's outgrowth. Alexis pledged to do everything in her power to move the jury that Michael was the bone. Who pulled the detector and fired the pellets into Drew's reverse? Alexis asked Dante about Michael and why law enforcement originally questioned him in regard to Drew's firing. She questioned him about Michael's justification, which he verified as Jacinda. Alexis wondered whether there was any substantiation linking them, and she refocused out that the justification was flimsy at stylish. Alexis did not hold back, principally criminating Dante of looking the other way to keep his family out of bind. Alexis substantiated Michael's former conviction for manslaughter and asked Dante if he was involved in that disquisition. Alexis asked Dante if he interposed on Michael's behalf, and would only settle for a yeah or no answer. Unfortunately for Michael, Dante verified that he did. Justine asked Dante to clarify his involvement, which was to get Michael to turn himself in. Michael was underage, and Dante did not believe it was fair for Michael to have been tried as an adult. Alexis called her coming substantiation, and everyone in the room looked amazed when she named Ezra Boyle as the coming in line. She asked Ezra if he was at the Brown Dog on election night, and he verified that he was. While there, he spoke to Detective Chase, indeed though he was ignorant of Chase's police cooperation. Ezra could not completely flash back election night, and he confessed to having drunk a lot before his discussion with Chase. Ezra checked into the Raven Motel on the night of Drew's firing and checked out a couple of hours laterally, all of which passed during the time of the firing. Alexis asked Ezra who he was with that night, and jaws dropped throughout the courtroom when he named Jacinda as his companion. Ezra disclosed that he paid for Jacinda's services, knowing her to be in companion, and that Michael was nowhere in the room. Justine got Ezra to admit that he'd paid for Jacinda's services over 20 times, and there was no substantiation that actually put the two of them together on the night of the firing. Jocelyn asked Michael how he planned to handle learning this news, and he told her that he demanded to detect Jacinda. He did not have to stay long because she showed up frantic, prompting Michael to skip city with his kiddies. Still, she was steered into the courtroom as it was time for her to swear. Jacinda took the stage and told the court that she and Michael hit it off on the night of Drew's firing and spent the evening together. Alexis asked whether their time together gauged the entire evening. She asked if, at the time of the firing, she was with Michael or not. The moment Kevin stepped through the door, Laura finally exhaled a breath she'd been holding for what felt like hours. the tension coiling in her chest slowly loosening. Kevin looked weary, his travel-worn face betraying his need for rest and a hot shower, yet the urgency of the situation allowed no respite. Laura, determined and resolute, didn't waste time on pleasantries. "Is the Dublin position still open?" she asked, her tone mixing hope with a faint tremor of anxiety. Kevin gave her a tired but reassuring nod, ready to answer, but Laura didn't wait. She launched into a rundown of the latest threats that had plagued their family. Sidwell, she explained, had made a brazen appearance outside Bobby's, menacing Ace and Charlotte without any attempt at subtlety. Kevin listened, stunned, absorbing every detail of Sidwell's audacity. The blatant disregard for subtlety sent a chill down his spine, making the urgency of the situation unmistakable. Laura didn't mince words. She demanded that Kevin take Ace immediately, removing him from the reach of Sidwell's dangerous influence. But she refused to join them, steadfast in her loyalty to the city and, more importantly, to Sonny. She would not abandon Sonny to face Sidwell alone. Laura, ever the strategist, reminded Kevin that she had been the one to draw Sonny into this dangerous web and that leaving him unprotected would be an injustice. Beyond Sonny, Laura's loyalty extended to Lulu, Christina, and the rest of her family. Every decision she made had to consider the safety of those she loved most, the people who depended on her, who would be vulnerable if she simply fled. Kevin, understanding the gravity of the situation, made a vow. He would stay with Laura, he would ensure she was protected. There was no question of leaving her to face Sidwell alone. Despite knowing the danger Sidwell posed, Kevin was resolute. Laura understood his courage, but she also knew the risks involved. "Take Ace as far away from Port Charles as you can," she instructed. "Get him out of Sidwell's reach." Kevin agreed, acknowledging that Ace's safety was paramount, and a temporary retreat from Port Charles was the only way to ensure it. Meanwhile, at the hospital, tensions ran high in a different, more controlled environment. Portia arrived for her appointment, only to be surprised when she found Britt waiting for her. Though initially mentioned as having lost her medical license, Britt had been reinstated, an unexpected twist that left Portia momentarily speechless. Curtis, entering shortly after, echoed her surprise and expressed hesitation about Britt serving as Portia's OB. Despite their misgivings, Portia insisted that Britt was competent and capable, her concern focused more on the medical aspect than personal grudges. However, Curtis pressed the issue of a paternity test, his insistence clashing with Portia's desire for caution. She needed time to adjust to the reality of her pregnancy before confirming the father, fearing the stress would affect both her and the baby. Britt, ever the professional, affirmed that Portia's pregnancy was progressing smoothly and advised her to continue taking her prenatal vitamins, balancing medical care with emotional support. Elizabeth's arrival added another layer of concern. She checked on Portia, who confided the pressure she felt from Curtis. Outside the exam room, Curtis attempted to schedule the paternity test regardless, but Isaiah intervened, asserting that Portia had the ultimate authority in this matter. Britt reinforced the point, shutting down both men. Isaiah, protective and principled, reminded Curtis that the past failures in their marriage made him unfit to dictate Portia's choices now. Curtis, though firm in his position, had to acknowledge that Portia's autonomy would remain intact. Meanwhile, Carly and Jack convened at Bobby's, strategizing and exchanging tense updates about Valentine's movements. Carly, her usual sharp-edged concern on full display, hoped that Valentine would be captured and restrained, preventing further chaos. Jack, however, had begun to suspect that Valentine was nowhere near Port Charles. The lack of communication, blocked numbers, and absence of direct contact with Anna raised red flags. Emma, anxious and desperate, sought Jack's help in locating Anna, emphasizing the abnormality of the situation. Jack, recognizing the gravity, pledged his support, asking for the photo Emma had from Christmas as a reference, a small but crucial piece in piecing together Anna's disappearance. Elsewhere, Britt tried to retreat to her apartment unnoticed, but Jack intercepted her. He reminded her of her cleverness and resourcefulness, tasks she could undertake to extract critical information from Sidwell's lab. His encouragement was firm but supportive, pushing Britt to act decisively despite the dangers she faced. At the Quartermain stables, Dani confronted Charlotte about her secretive excursion, demanding the truth. Charlotte explained that her mission was to reconnect with her father, Valentine, who was hiding at Carly's house. Dani, initially wary, agreed to assist, ensuring that her actions remained undetected by law enforcement. The delicate choreography of their actions underscored the city's pervasive tension, the constant threat of exposure amplifying the stakes. Valentine, meanwhile, wrestled with the implications of his daughter's unplanned visits. He was delighted to see Charlotte but scolded Carly for taking risks that could jeopardize his freedom. Valentine's insistence on caution highlighted the balance between emotional desire and strategic necessity. He reminded Charlotte that safety and patience were paramount, warning her that any deviation from the plan could have irreversible consequences. The gravity of Sidwell's threats further underscored the peril. Charlotte, loyal yet concerned, relayed the danger Sidwell posed, reinforcing the necessity of their cautious approach. Christina, taking proactive measures, confronted Jacinda outside Bobby's, urging her to leave Port Charles before Willow's trial could endanger her. Jacinda, concerned for Michael, was unaware of his knowledge of the plan. Christina, aware of the legal risks of her actions, pressed the urgency, handing Jacinda a bag of cash and demanding her departure. The stakes were clear: one wrong move could unravel months of careful planning, exposing them all to legal jeopardy. At the courthouse, Michael was confronted by the sight of Jocelyn, unexpectedly present to support him. Her presence added an emotional layer to the already intense courtroom atmosphere, reminding Michael of the personal stakes interwoven with the legal ones. Drew, relentless as ever, berated Willow and Alexis, insisting that Alexis' near misstep could compromise Willow's freedom. The custody of Scout hung precariously in the balance, contingent on the trial's outcome. Alexis, methodical and focused, vowed to demonstrate that Michael had fired the fatal shots into Drew's back, a revelation poised to reshape the courtroom dynamics. Alexis interrogated Dante, seeking clarity on Michael's initial questioning regarding Drew's shooting. She pushed him on the validity of Michael's alibi and whether there was evidence linking him to the crime, highlighting the potential inconsistencies. Dante confirmed that Michael had been protected from legal jeopardy due to his age at the time, an admission that further complicated the courtroom narrative. Justine, probing deeper, ensured Dante clarified his involvement, emphasizing the procedural nuances and ethical implications of intervening on Michael's behalf. The courtroom drama escalated when Alexis called Ezra Boyle as her next witness, a decision that stunned those in attendance. Ezra confirmed his presence at the Brown Dog on election night, a timeline intersecting with Drew's shooting. Despite his inebriation, Ezra's testimony established critical context. When pressed, he revealed that Jacinda had been his companion that night, paid for services, with Michael absent from the scene. The revelation sent shockwaves through the courtroom, underscoring the delicate balance between perception, truth, and strategic legal maneuvering. Justine elicited admissions from Ezra about his repeated engagements with Jacinda, but no evidence directly linked them to the shooting, reinforcing the tenuous nature of circumstantial connections. Michael, aware of the potential impact, turned to Jocelyn, seeking guidance on navigating the revelation. Jacinda appeared soon after, urging Michael to leave town with his children to avoid entanglement, but was compelled to testify as her moment in court arrived. On the stand, Jacinda recounted the evening, confirming her companionship with Michael during the timeframe in question. Alexis' line of questioning probed the specifics of their time together, seeking to establish whether Michael's presence coincided with the shooting. The tension in the courtroom was palpable, every word weighed heavily, and the stakes, legal, personal, and emotional, loomed over every participant. As the narrative unfolded, the city of Port Charles braced itself. Families and allies maneuvered with caution, understanding that every action carried significant consequences. Threats loomed both explicit and subtle, a constant reminder of the dangerous forces at play. Yet amidst the danger, encouraging words and strategic support offered solace and direction, guiding the players through the perilous landscape of deception, loyalty, and survival. Michael's role as defender of the guilty was both a moral and tactical crucible, testing his integrity, patience, and resolve. He navigated each challenge with measured courage, aware that his choices affected not only the outcome of the trial but the lives of those he loved most. The hours passed, punctuated by courtroom revelations, whispered warnings, and tense confrontations. Allies rallied to provide assistance, ethical boundaries were tested, and the interplay of loyalty, truth, and deception unfolded in real time. Michael, at the center of the storm, faced the ultimate test of his abilities and character. Protecting the guilty to shield the innocent required a delicate, high-stakes equilibrium, one that demanded both legal acumen and emotional intelligence. As testimony concluded for the day, the implications of each revelation reverberated. Angry threats, carefully veiled or overt, underscored the volatility of the situation, while moments of encouragement offered glimmers of hope amidst the chaos. The courtroom, a microcosm of Port Charles itself, reflected the complex interplay of morality, loyalty, and justice. Michael's navigation of these treacherous waters exemplified the pressures inherent in defending someone whose guilt was known but whose punishment could devastate the innocent. The narrative, rich in tension and dramatic beats, illustrated the intricate moral calculus required in a city where the line between right and wrong was perpetually blurred. Throughout the city, every decision, whether in the courtroom, the hospital, or the hidden corners of Port Charles, carried consequences. Families were tested, alliances forged and broken, and secrets threatened to surface at every turn. Michael's commitment to defending the guilty, protecting the innocent, and maintaining his moral compass in the face of immense pressure became a symbol of courage and strategic thinking. In the midst of angry threats and tense confrontations, the courage, encouragement, and loyalty displayed by Port Charles's residents underscored the resilience and complexity of human relationships under duress. The narrative's climax approached as courtroom proceedings and personal stakes converged. Each revelation, from Jacinda's testimony to Ezra's admissions, heightened the suspense, forcing Michael to navigate the treacherous intersection of truth, perception, and moral duty. Angry confrontations, emotional appeals, and strategic maneuvering created a charged atmosphere, culminating in a tense, high-stakes legal drama that would leave no character untouched. Port Charles stood at the precipice of a defining moment. Michael's defense of the guilty, the orchestration of protection for the innocent, and the careful navigation of threats and alliances represented a baptism of fire, an intense test of character, intelligence, and moral fortitude. Each step forward, each calculated decision, emphasized the stakes, the safety of loved ones, the pursuit of justice, and the delicate balance between truth and deception. The story's resolution promised to reshape relationships, test loyalties, and ultimately define the legacy of those at the center of Port Charles's ever-unfolding drama.